Hello, welcome to another episode of Messy Magic. I am your host, Nadee Guy, and thank you so much for pressing play or for allowing your podcast player to automatically start playing the next episode where I start talking. Either way, I really appreciate you listening to this episode today. And I have a special one for you. Well, they're all special, but today is a continuation of, or a part two, really, to the last episode that I did, which was all around how to infuse more masculine energy or the gifts of masculine energy into your business to bring definition and momentum and power to your business and work. So that was the masculine side. And today we're talking about the feminine, which feels softer and more playful and more creative to me. So I'm excited about that. But before I talk about that, I've actually got a really good example of how this plays out, or how this can play out, how you can mindfully infuse more feminine into your business for deeper well-being, deeper value and nourishment for you and your business. And the example is actually this podcast episode. So normally, or lately with these episodes, I've been putting a bit of preparation into them in terms of thinking about the topic and then outlining like a few key points that I want to cover, just to make sure that it's kind of delivering on the topic, like it's a well-rounded episode. And I've done that for today's episode. But what I found, and that's like that whole process of like developing the structure and having a bit of process around it, is a very masculine kind of thing to do, which is great because I think we need structure and support. And that's really beautiful ways to support our business and ourselves in our business. But what happened with today's episode is twice now I've started recording, and the second time I got through, I think I recorded about 17 minutes of it, and it just wasn't feeling, something was off. I just wasn't feeling, I kept getting distracted and I kept thinking, like judging what I was saying. And there was a few interruptions, like noises and stuff, and I wasn't feeling it. And normally, to be completely honest, I would normally push through. Like I'd be more focused on how to get to the end goal, which is recording a full podcast and then moving through, like editing out anything I need to and then publishing it, regardless of whether it's perfect or not. Like I think it's safe to say that I never feel like anything is perfect. So I've come to that realization and knowing that I just need to put things out there. But today was different, and I think it's really funny and very synchronistic that it happened in today's episode, because without thinking a whole lot about it, I stopped recording and just gave myself permission to not be feeling it and to walk away. So I'm working from home today, and I went outside and hung out the washing. And as I was hanging out the washing, I was thinking about the episode, and it occurred to me that what I had just done was actually a really feminine thing to do, like to honor my body and my inner experience rather than pushing through and moving sort of just one-eyed towards the goal. One-eyed is probably not the right word, but, moving forward towards the goal, regardless of what was going on in my inner world. Instead of doing that, I actually took a breath and paused and decided to honor the fact that I wasn't quite feeling it, honor my feeling and walk away from it. And in doing that, this is why I think it's a perfect example, because in doing that, this example dropped into my body, and now I feel so much more aligned with this episode and being able to share this story with you. So it's a little bit meta because it's an example of, like, a real-time example of what I wanted to talk to you about. But I hope that makes sense. And I still have my structure for the episode, and I am going to talk through some more examples, but I feel like that is the perfect demonstration of the other end of the spectrum, where the masculine is the structure, the process, the logic, the mind, the strategy, the moving forward, the doing, the going. And all of those things, don't get me wrong, all of those things we absolutely need and have their own value and gifts. But this is the other end of the spectrum. It's the being, it's the feeling, it's the just dropping in, being present, and allowing creativity to flow through. So, I hope that makes sense. Now, in saying that, let me tell you some more examples of how we can, I think, get some really beautiful value from feminine energy in our business. As I said last week, in case you haven't listened to that episode, masculine and feminine energies have nothing to do with gender. Every body, every thing has masculine and feminine energy. It's got nothing to do with our gender. It's more about these kind of polarities and the gifts that we can get from these two, like, it's a spectrum, I guess, of energies. And so I guess the first one I've demonstrated already is this idea of feeling, and where masculine is kind of more doing and moving forward, feminine is about being and feeling and moving into depth. And so my first invitation to you then is, how can you bring more depth and feeling to your business through the process of becoming a feminine embodiment coach? Through the School of Embodied Arts, I learned about this concept of depth before direction. And so in a coaching session, that is the priority that we hold, this idea of going deep on one particular thing rather than kind of trying to cover off a whole lot of things, maybe on a surface level. We allow ourselves the space and the presence to go deep on something. And so I guess I just invite you to reflect on how you could employ that, or how you could bring that concept into your own business. Is there something that you feel is asking you for more depth? Maybe asking you to slow down. And I realize that it's not easy for us to do in this world that we live in. We're often asked to go faster, to be more productive, to be more efficient, to create more, produce more, do more with less time. And it's really often countercultural for us to slow down and say, no, I'm actually going to go deeper on this thing and derive more value from it, more potency from this thing. Another way that I guess my example at the top of the episode demonstrates this as well is honouring the body. With the feminine, we're really invited into how can what does my body need? We are all human, even if you're a business owner. It might sound obvious, it feels a bit funny to say, but I feel like so often we treat ourselves as though we're machines or robots. And I think it's really valuable to continue reminding ourselves that we're humans and we're animals. Like we've evolved from nature. We're not separate from nature. We are a part of nature. And our animal body has needs. And so is there a way that you need to provide more rest to your body? Do you need to provide nourishment in some other way? Better food, better sleep, more water. I know these are all things that are they're related to health, but when you think about it, if you're running a business, your business needs your human to be in the best possible shape to run the business. So what are the ways in which you can honor your body in order to be more potent in your business? Another feminine gift is collaboration and community. And I'm just in love with this whole concept at the moment of an ecosystem, thinking about who are we working with? Who are you working with? Who are you serving? Who are you buying from? Who are you investing in? And with all of those questions, what are the ripple effects? Like if you are investing in another business, if you're buying something from someone or you're investing in something, it's not just the benefit that you receive, it's also the person on the other end of that transaction. What are they receiving? And how does their family benefit from that transaction? And how does their community benefit? What does circulating money do when you allow money to come into your life and then you release it? What are the effects of that? And I just think the more mindful we can be, even if we don't change anything about the way that we spend or the way that we receive money, if we just are more mindful, like we kind of think about the effect, it just has such far-reaching implications, and I really love it. But it's not just about spending and money. Like this idea of collaboration and community is also about lifting each other up. And I have been so fortunate. I mean, I'm becoming more and more aware of it and conscious, and I'm cultivating the idea of really being mindful of collaboration and community in my business. And I've seen so many examples over the past few months where either someone is supporting me or I'm supporting somebody else. And that could be financially, or it could be in some other way with a service or sharing someone's post or my post, or like receiving feedback or giving feedback, or like referring somebody, or I don't know. There's so many examples when you think about it. But collaborating with others and creating community just have such potential, and it's a really beautiful way to incorporate more feminine into your business, like just being really mindful of those things and cultivating more of it. And beyond that, it's also considering the collective in your work. So when it comes to your business, what is the impact that your work is having on the broader community and the collective? And that's going to be very individual to every person, but I think it's really worth sitting with and just appreciating the ripple effect that you are creating. Because when you appreciate what you're already creating and already doing, it becomes more like you feel more into it, and you begin to pay more attention to it, and you'll be more mindful about amplifying the positive effects. Coming back to this idea of nature and the fact that we are a part of nature, nature isn't linear. One of the sort of masculine ideals, I guess, is like linear growth. This idea of continual expansion and upward momentum, upward growth. But when you think about it, nature doesn't follow those rules. We have fertile seasons, we have growth seasons, then we have decay and decline, and then we have seasons of rest and restoration. So, what season is your business in? And how can you honour that season? I think so often we force ourselves to, or our business, or both, to continue this linear growth and productivity and efficiency. And it's just not sustainable. I think if we can actually take a moment and think about what season we might be in, then there are gifts within that season that you can derive. So I think there's so much treasure to be found in thinking about that. And it's not just about your business either. I mean, what season of life are you in? And how can you honour the season that you're in? Another feminine gift is creativity. So how can you bring more creativity and playfulness into your business? And this applies to everyone. I don't care if you're an engineer or you're in IT or you're working with code every day and you think that you're not creative. You don't have to be an artist to be creative. I think there's ways to be creative and playful in any kind of work, because it's all in your approach and what you're actually producing, what you're creating. How can you be more creative and playful in your work? And the last example I have, and I think I've left the best to last, is around pleasure and sensuality, which are both like really feminine gifts as well. So just take a few minutes, maybe after this episode, to think about what would feel more pleasurable in your business. How could you bring more pleasure into your work? And it might be on a moment-to-moment basis. Maybe it's as simple as taking a really deep, nourishing breath, closing your eyes and sensing everything that's happening in your body when you take a beautiful big breath. And perhaps it's turning your senses on and just really using your ears for a moment to notice what sounds you can hear. And as simple as that sounds, it's like dropping into our body and actually enjoying the experience of being in a human body. And you can do that in coherence with your business when you're working. Or it might be like a longer term play to bring more pleasure and sensuality into your business. So maybe you'd like to create more space and time, like you'd like to feel more spaciousness in your business. Perhaps it might be hiring some support or outsourcing something. Or maybe it's even completely taking something off your list, deleting a task that you've been telling yourself you have to do. But when you look at it, you realize it's actually not essential. And I think that could fit quite nicely into the pleasure bucket, having that extra sense of freedom by not having to do something. And how can you use your senses more in your business? Like maybe it's your desk where you work. putting something on your desk that delights your eyes or your nose. Maybe it's the way you dress, or maybe it's your brand. How can you bring your senses to your brand? What kinds of things, what kinds of images do you want your brand to evoke? What kinds of sounds do you want to be associated with your brand? What kinds of smells and tastes? So much fun and creativity you can apply to work when you start to think of it in different ways. And so to me, it feels like having a balance of both types of energy, of the masculine and the feminine, leads to a more enriching and fulfilling business and life. And isn't that what we all want, really? We want more well-being. And I think pursuing this idea of bringing both into your business where it makes sense and where it feels good to you can really promote more well-being for you. Now, I'm planning a podcast series. I think I've talked about it here before. I've been talking about it for months. I'm planning a podcast series on feminine business, and I'm really excited about it. But I'm also, I'm not an expert in this stuff. I really am kind of at the beginning of my learning journey and my experiencing journey. So I would love to have guests on the podcast and interview them about their experience of building the feminine into their business, even if it's not, I realize using this word feminine is not, it might be a different word than you're used to and different word to what other people use. I think that's fine. I think the meaning of it is the same, but the actual word itself might be different. But if you or someone you know has leaned into these gifts and is building or has built a feminine business, I would love to talk about having you on the podcast. So please reach out. I'll put my email address in the show notes, and you can also reach me on Instagram. I'm just @NadiGuy if you want to DM me. And the other thing that I want to mention, I mentioned this last week as well, is my latest offer, which is potent and pleasurable accountability coaching. And it really is a combination of the masculine and the feminine, because it is a structure, it's a 12-week program where we begin with your goals and mapping out a specific plan to bring you further towards your goals. When you work for yourself, you don't have a boss to report to. As much as not having a boss is an amazing freedom promoting thing in your business, it also has its challenges because you don't have someone holding you accountable and telling you what you need to do. So the idea of accountability coaching is that you are telling me and maybe 2 or 3 other women who will be in your group what you're committing to doing and, how you're going to get there, and also why you want to get there, because I think the why that drives us is just so important, and so many times we forget to think about it first. So there's power in reporting back to people on what you've achieved, but also on celebrating the wins that you have along the way and brainstorming the challenges. And then also just every 2 weeks setting yourself some new tasks which are moving you towards your goals, and having that little community behind you of myself and 2 or 3 others cheering you on and pulling you forward towards your goals. So it is this masculine structure, this container to hold you, but within that container you have freedom and creativity to create what it is you want to create, to be inspired, to be empowered, And I'm also going to be infusing pleasure into the process by getting you to feel into what brings you pleasure. And then we're going to weave that into the accountability side of things as well. So the pleasure will be like extra motivation, extra inspiration to bring you towards your goals in maybe ways that you haven't done before. So as a feminine embodiment coach, not only can I hold this space for you and help keep you focused and keep you kind of ticking off those tasks that you said you were going to do, but I can also support you to drop into your body and really get close to this wisdom that you hold that you might not even be aware of. And that's one of the many gifts of feminine embodiment coaching and one of the reasons I love it. So if you want to learn more about potent and pleasurable accountability coaching, you can go to nadeeguy.co/accountability. I will put that link in the show notes. And it's been a really interesting process actually creating that sales page because, as you may know, I'm also a copywriter, a conversion-focused copywriter, which is a very masculine thing to do. And it has, like, instead of creating a new sales page on my website, I actually just created it in Google Docs. I didn't want to get distracted by the design process and putting it on my website. I just wanted to have the words that you needed to have in order to decide whether this might be something that you would be interested in. So you will go ahead and see what that sales page looks like on Google Docs. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So yeah, you can learn more and sign up if you are interested. So I'm going to leave it there today. To be honest, I'm feeling pretty tired now after having recorded this 3 times. But that is one of the ways that I get to honor my body by knowing that I'm tired, maybe having some lunch, having a bit of a break before coming back to my work for the rest of the day. So thank you once again for being here. I so appreciate you. I know this podcast has been on a bit of a journey. It's still very much a creative, intuitive project for me, and I really love it. So if I thought that someone out there was getting some benefit from it, well, that's my dog barking at someone, it would bring me so much joy. So if that's you, please let me know. I would love to hear from you. And on that note, I'm going to leave it there. And I hope you have a most magical day. I'll be with you again soon.